And if you're gone tomorrow, what legacy is left? What is left for your family? What is left for your children? What is left of you? Hi friends, welcome to Rouse Rising. If you are new here, my name is Katie, and today I just want to have kind of a heart-to-heart talk with you guys. And see if I can get through this without crying. I might not be able to, and that's okay. I'll just have to start over if I start up. So this video is about hard conversations and conversations that we must have with our families, because if we don't have these conversations and things happen, then we don't want to be in a situation where we look back and shoulda, woulda, coulda. And it's not an easy conversation to have. It's an uncomfortable conversation to have with your loved ones. Nobody likes to be in the situation and face the reality when things happen. So a lot of people ask me why I prep. Why am I stocking food? Why am I storing food for long term? And really, there's a lot of reasons why. I have 5 children and my husband, so there's 7 of us. And should some kind of catastrophic life event occur, I need to be able to hunker down with my family and feed them, whether there is a loss of job, whether there is a loss of life, or any other number of things that can happen. And you'll have to forgive me. I'm rocking my baby to sleep, and he's snoring and nursing, so you're gonna hear a little bit of that going on. The reason why the conversation even came up was because I've stumbled across some Instagram accounts of some mothers and just heartbreaking stories of loss of their loved ones. And while we've all experienced some level of loss in our life, I don't think anybody ever plans to lose a spouse at a young age. That's not something anybody plans. And when you choose your spouse, and when you choose to get married, and you make that lifelong commitment, it is with a person that you love and that you want to be with for the rest of your life, till death do us part. Recently, we've been confronted with a series of unfortunate events in the world. And what we're seeing right now is a lot of people suddenly dying for unexplained reasons or natural causes. Now, this isn't normal. We are seeing a lot of military members dying unexpectedly right now. I think at Fort Bragg, it was brought to my attention recently that at Fort Bragg, in the last 2 years, they've lost 80 soldiers. They've lost 80 soldiers unexpectedly. 80 at one military base, one base. So you guys have heard me talk about that Aaron has some health concerns. And you've heard me just briefly mention it. Well, this week we're headed out of town, and we are headed to some appointments up north, some tests that Aaron's going to have done to test his neurological capacity, his abilities, his everything kind of neurologic. They're testing a bunch of things. So they're going to be doing a tilt table test, and they're also doing an EEG test on him. So these are over the course of a few days that they're going to be doing these 2 tests. Well, one test is one day, the other test is another day. And my husband is having symptoms. And his symptoms have exacerbated since some mandates that happened in the last year. So I'm sure you all can imagine what that is. But a little bit of a backstory for you all. It's hard to talk about because there's been a lot of struggle. And there's been a lot of picking ourselves up repeatedly. And there's been lifestyle changes and things like that. So, okay. So 9 years ago, my husband and I were together, and he suddenly developed an explosive headache, a severe headache that just came out of nowhere. Me, being the woman who I lost my mother when I was 20 to a brain aneurysm, that was terrifying to me. So that day, we were living in England at the time. We were living on a military base. We were in base housing. I remember it very vividly. And I sent him to the hospital, where they proceeded to run many tests on him. They didn't find anything that day that was terribly alarming. He didn't have any type of infections. He wasn't bleeding in his brain. He wasn't having a brain aneurysm or a stroke or anything like that. But since that day, he has continued to have migraines, very painful headaches, exertion headaches. He has 4 different types of headaches. Some of them are brought on by exertion, so he can't overly exert himself. He's had to stop working out. He used to do CrossFit. We have a CrossFit gym in our house. He was a very, very active person and loved to be fit and in shape. So when the headaches started, he pushed through, and he kept doing all that, and he kept working hard to stay in shape. And that was one thing that's one thing I love about my husband, is he has the drive unlike anybody I've ever known in my life. And I've known him since we were in 3rd grade. And the first time I ever saw Aaron was on the playground, and he was playing basketball, and he played basketball just amazingly. He was so very talented. And so basically I fell in love with him in 3rd grade, and that has stayed with me my whole life. We were like boyfriend, girlfriend in middle school. I finally talked him into being my little boyfriend. And then we dated off and on throughout high school. He broke my heart. Yes, he did. He broke my heart. I swore him off for my whole life. I basically said that was it for him. So basically I swore him off in high school. I was done. He broke my heart, and I was done. That was it for me. In my mind, I was never ever gonna be able to give him a second chance, because that devastated me. So flash forward to him joining the military, and he found me on social media, and he would send me messages every time he came home. Every time he was home from a deployment, he would send me a message. Hey, Katie, I'm in town. Do you want to go grab something to eat? Do you want to go grab a drink? And my response was always, no, I have a boyfriend. No, like, don't message me. Like, you broke my heart in high school. Like, don't message me. Just annoyed. So this went on for years while I dated other people. He would send me these messages and I would be like, nope, sorry, I'm dating somebody. I'm off, I'm off limits. And then one time he messaged me, it was Thanksgiving, and I had just gotten out of a serious relationship. And Aaron sent me a message. Hey, I'm going to be in town for Thanksgiving. Can we get together? And I said, well, I have plans. I'm meeting up with my friends in town, but if you want to meet up too, like it's going to be a whole lot of us, a bunch of people from high school, then come on out and, if we can hang out or whatever. Well, that night, it was a Friday after Thanksgiving. I was out with my friends, and then Aaron walked through the door. I'm sitting at the bar, talking to my friend and talking to this other person, and they say, like, when the room stops, everything around me stopped when he walked in. And he was the most beautiful thing I had seen. And I just couldn't believe that he was there that night and that he wanted to see me. But I wasn't having it, you guys. It didn't matter to me how attracted I was to him, how much I knew in my heart that I loved him. I wasn't going down that road. I didn't want to get my heart broken again. So eventually, we connected that night and we went to a different club or a different bar or whatever. We were young. Well, I say young, but we were 27 at the time. So we were actually kind of old. And he kept telling my best friend, can you please just talk to Katie? Just talk to Katie. See if Katie will just give me one chance. I just want one more chance. I was not going to give him a chance. And she talked to me and I was like, forget that. Nobody's going down that road again. Fast forward, a month later, we got married. I'm not kidding you guys. 30 days later, we were married. We ran down to South Carolina, and we got married at the courthouse on December 30th, 2010, I think. Hold on a second. We're coming up on 12 years, you all, 12 years that we've been married. So we got married because he was moving to England, and I told him, if you're moving to England without me, we're done. I'm not doing a long-distance relationship. So we went to England and started our family, and then it was like January when the headaches started. And we had our 2 little children, our 2 little babies, and it was terrifying. But once we realized that it wasn't life-threatening, it was like, okay, now how do we deal with this? How do we manage these headaches? And that's been going on for 9 years now that he's been dealing with this. Well, every single time that he is mandated to do something, and I'm not going to say it on my channel because there's huge controversy over it. I'm almost been banned on all other social media platforms for sharing my story openly, both on Instagram and Facebook. When I wrote posts on Instagram and Facebook, and when I was vocal about my feelings about the mandates and everything, I nearly lost those accounts. So I had to rein it back in, and I haven't shared our story or our journey since, because they tried to censor us and the truth and our story. And there's nothing that has been more maddening in my life than being told that what I'm saying isn't real, or that what I'm experiencing isn't real. So you can see how this is a touchy subject for me when I talk about things that happen to me and to my family, and people say, that's not true, or you're spreading misinformation. You're being harmful to other people. You're spreading misinformation. How is it misinformation when it's my truth? So when I started talking about Aaron's adverse reactions to every single thing that he's had injected into his body for the last 9 years, And I talk about my child's adverse reaction to the things that he had injected in his body at 2 months old. And people want to tell me that it's not true and that I'm making it up. They haven't lived in my shoes. They weren't at the hospital with me. They weren't there when my husband started having all of his symptoms, when everything started. They're not here now in the struggle, witnessing the decline of their partner's health and more symptoms. I'm sorry, you guys, but I want this channel to be a holistic homemaking channel, but what is true to my heart is telling people our story and why we live the way we do, and why I think the way I do, and why I am the way I am. And my life experience has shaped the decisions that I make every single day of my life. I try to protect my family. I try to protect my husband as much as I can, and I try to give him the tools to protect himself, and I try to help him detox into all the things that we can do to help get him back to his good health. Because let me tell you something, we've been on this road for a minute. And people are like, oh, but he plays professional golf. Oh, but he's a golfer and he can still play golf. If he can still play golf, then he must not be that bad. And you know what? That's true. He can still play golf. And he can still play golf and he's not that bad yet. But that's not to say that next week or next year or 5 years from now, he won't be able to play. That's just the reality that we're facing right now with his health. And it's frustrating and it's maddening, and he has to go before all these care providers and he has to rehash his story and he has to tell another person exactly what's going on and he has to rehash all of his symptoms, and then they send him to another doctor and he has to rehash everything again and re-explain himself. Oh, then this doctor moves out of town and he has to find a new doctor and go over everything else again, and then he has to work hard to get his referrals, and he's fighting for his life and he's fighting for his good health that he no longer has, okay? And I'm right there with him fighting. So the whole point of this video and what I want to talk to you guys about today is the importance of talking to your loved ones about, what do I do when you're gone? What do I tell the children? What are they gonna have of you? How am I gonna manage the finances? All these things that people don't talk about because it's uncomfortable. We don't want to talk about, what am I going to do if you're dead? What are you going to do if I die? Nobody wants to talk about that. And then you see these widows on Instagram and on Facebook telling their stories and sharing with everyone and saying, cautioning people, speak to your spouse about these important things. Have you written letters to your children in case something happens to you? Have you made that video encouraging your children in case of your absence? Have you said the things that you needed to say in your life to the people that mean the most to you? And if you haven't, and if you're gone tomorrow, what legacy is left? What is left for your family? What is left for your children? What is left of you for your family and your children? Recently, one of my friends just lost her brother-in-law unexpectedly. He just died. Healthy, fit young man just died. Tell me why. And it's happening to so many people right now. I've seen it in the news. They're calling it sudden unexplained death syndrome. Sudden unexplained death syndrome. It's like SIDS. Sudden infant death syndrome. Do you know what that is? That's a cover-up. When do these babies die? 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, 12 months. When do they die? Correlates with their well checks. Go look at it. Go look at the stats. Go look at the ages of these babies that are dying from SIDS. I tell you what, it's not unexplained. It's not suddenly this baby dies for no reason. The baby stops breathing for no reason. It's not no reason. It's not unexplained. They know how to explain it. They do. They know exactly what causes this. They know exactly what causes autoimmune disease. They know exactly what causes infertility. They know all of this. So what happens when your spouse dies? When your child's father dies? What happens? What happens when you die? So a lot of people have asked me, Katie, what's your why? Why did you start this channel? Let me tell you my why. My mother died when I was 20. I wasn't a mother. I didn't know anything about motherhood. Motherhood wasn't even like close to being on my mind when I was 20 years old. It was the farthest thing from my mind. I didn't think to ask my mom about birth. I didn't think to ask my mom, how do you take care of a newborn? I didn't have an opportunity to ask her. So why did I start my YouTube? Because if I'm gone, will my children know how to make a turkey for Thanksgiving dinner? Did I teach them enough? Did I give them the tools? Did I give them the tools to grow up without me? So I asked my husband today, I said, hey, can we have a conversation? It's going to be hard. It's not going to be comfortable. It's going to be an uncomfortable conversation. He's like, yeah, what's up? I said, what am I going to do if you die? He said, what do you mean? I said, what am I going to do? This shouldn't be like the brunt, like it snowballed into, what are the children going to have of you? What are the children going to have of me? Are they going to have letters or videos, or what are they going to have? We lost my mother-in-law in January. Too soon. She was too young for her life to be over. And it's just brought up a lot in these last 6 months. And it's been incredibly difficult for me to put on a happy face and to make content. And I was going to quit in January. I was ready to quit, you guys. I couldn't see what it was doing for my family. I couldn't see, I was stressed out. I was just trying to create content and working so hard and just not seeing the fruits of my labor. And I realized, oh, I wasn't doing it for the right reasons. I started my channel with good intentions and with the right reasons, and then it turned into me trying to earn a living for my family in case something bad happened. So here we are, going to the neurologist this week with my husband to have these tests done, and I just needed to know from him, have you done everything to set me up for success in your absence? Because I don't know the first thing of where to start. I've been so knee deep in taking care of children and my channel and everything that I have just been completely oblivious to everything else, all of the logistics of our life together, of our marriage. I've gotten really comfortable with that. And I know that I can earn a living and support us. I can hustle. I've done it my whole life. I've been able to figure it out. But I think I was in a mindset frame that if I lose him, I'm going to be in such a state of grief. How am I going to put one foot in front of the other? How would I keep the electricity on? I'm going to keep the water on, my cell phone bill, like stupid things that don't matter when you're dealing with a loss. And to think about that and to put myself in a future situation where I don't have my husband living with me anymore It's like too much to bear, but it's a fact of reality that we have to face, because it could happen to you, it could happen to me, it could happen to anybody. We could be without our lifelong partners. We could lose somebody suddenly in our life. And do we know how to pick up the pieces when that happens? Does he know how to pick up the pieces if I'm gone too soon? And I asked him that. I said, what are you going to do? What are your first steps if I'm gone? What are you going to do? How are you going to put one foot in front of the other? What are you going to do for our children? Do you have pictures of me to show them? Do you have videos of me to show them? And I asked him, I was like, have you made videos for our children telling them that you love them in the future? There's a lot going on in our life, but I have to ask him the hard questions, and I have to know the answers, because I have to be able to move forward in life should anything happen to him. He has to be able to move forward in life should anything happen to me. And I know you guys are probably thinking, like, why, he's still here, live for today, everything's fine, nothing's happened to him, nothing's gonna happen to him. Say that to all the women who have lost their husbands. Say that to all the children who have lost their fathers. Because they would tell you, take the picture, take the video, take the vacation, take down the notes and figure out what all the passwords are to all of the accounts for the family. How are you going to continue? Is there life insurance? Is there, these are all important questions. This is not an easy conversation to have, but we should all be having it with our loved ones, because we don't know what the future holds. We cannot dwell in the past, but we can use it to make our future better. And at the present time, all we have now is the present. It's a gift. So with that said, make time to have that conversation. Set aside time in your life to have that hard conversation, because you need to be prepared for the worst case scenario. And a lot of people think that I prep for the end of days or for when things hit the fan or whatever. I'm prepping for any scenario, but what spurred on the prepping was me thinking that one day I could be, or that Aaron could be without me, or I could be without him, and there could be a lapse in income, or there could be just a period of time where we deal with illness or whatever it is. That is why I started prepping. Not for end of the days craziness, even though that's kind of what is happening now, but I'm prepping because back last fall, my husband could have lost his job. He chose to not lose his job, and we have paid for that ever since. And was it worth it? Health-wise, was it worth it? Not worth it. Not for him. Not for all of the exposures that he's had in his military career. Not for all the deployments that he spent overseas in the Middle East, inhaling the black burning pits of the Middle East. Not all of the jet fuel and hydraulic fluid and all of the things that have seeped into his pores. There are things in his life that have happened and that he's been exposed to that exacerbate the situation that is his health right now. Everything adds up. Every little thing adds up. Mortars blasting next to him or near him, the loud explosion, all the jet noise. They had a situation in the test cell where the pressure went all crazy in the test cell, and it really messed up his ears, and his ears have not been right since. He's really been struggling with the ear-brain neurologic connections and what's going on in there. And it is affecting him in other areas of his body. We are seeing this now, and his symptoms are increasing and getting worse. So that's where we're at. And we don't know yet what is happening with his brain. So that's why we're having some tests done. But I'm hopeful that the neurologist is a smart guy and he knows why he ordered these tests. So Aaron's seeing, he's seeing a lot of specialists, and he's in therapy, vestibular therapy, psychotherapy, trying to better himself and improve his coping skills for the turmoil that's going on inside of his head and inside of his body. He's doing everything he can nutritionally, physically, mentally, everything that he can do to get better, he's doing. So we can't really explain why he's not getting better in those areas. And if you look at him, yeah, he's a healthy guy. But you also don't see when he's suffering, and he's suffering almost constantly. He's suffering constantly. And then you add to it the stress of the mandates and the stress of losing your job if you don't make a decision, and the decision that they're forcing you to make. He's only trying to do what's right, and I support him. I support him knowing that it's not benefiting his health, and that I will say I had to pick him up off the floor for 3 days, and I had to get him out of bed for 3 days after the mandate. In front of our children, he was on the floor and he couldn't get up. And I had to say, "You're scaring the children, get up." And I had to pick him up off the floor. And since then, it's just been hell. And people tell me that can't happen. And Instagram tells me I'm spreading false misinformation. And Facebook tells me that I'm spreading false misinformation and it's dangerous and that I'm going to be banned for sharing our story, for sharing that I had to pick him up off the ground for 3 days. He couldn't get out of bed. He was in excruciating pain. He thought his head was exploding. He thought his body was exploding. Okay, he had intense pain. His ears were under so much pressure and so much pain, and they have continued to do so. He's not okay. So we're talking about what happens if he's gone. And that's our reality. Maybe a reality for any of you out there. Have that hard conversation. My baby just woke up. I'm going to go get him. But thank you guys so much for watching today. I'm sorry if this was heavy, but that's where my heart is right now. It's been really heavy. Nobody wants to think about that. Nobody wants to think about a future without their spouse. But here we are. It's a possibility. It could be a reality, but all we can do is prepare for that, and to be prepared as possible, and to pray that nothing happens, but know that we've done everything that we can. It's why I prep. It's why you should consider prepping. It's not just about the zombie apocalypse. And I think everybody looks at preppers like, oh, it's they're preparing for something that's never going to happen. No, we're not preparing for the zombie apocalypse. We're just trying to be prepared for any situation. And for me, that's being prepared for a job loss or loss of health or loss of life. And I know that that's not likely to happen. I know the possibility is there, and I'm not going to be naive to the facts of the matter. And that is, military members are dropping like flies. They're dying. They've been exposed to too much toxic exposure in the military branches. Way too much. More than one body can handle. And I know people, and I have heard stories for years. So what I am saying in this video is my truth. And if you have felt the same at some point in your life, like you're not being heard, or people are shutting you down for sharing your truth, just know that the only person that can prepare or that can make better the situation, the only person who carries this burden on their shoulders is you. And no one else does, and nobody else can carry that for you. So what are you going to do? Are you ready? Are you prepared for anything? Are you prepared for the loss of life of anyone that you love? Do you know what you're going to do when they're gone? Have you had that conversation with them? Have you asked your loved ones? And have your loved ones asked you, how do you want to be handled once you're dead? Where do you want to go? How do you want to be buried? Do you want to be cremated? Do you want to donate your organs? These are important things. And yes, I know it's on the driver's license, but this is like stuff that we need to talk about. These are things that you need to have hashed out today, because right now is a gift, and the future, we don't know what it holds. So thank you guys so much. If you made it this far, I appreciate you being here with me. Until next time, you guys. Bye.